Hi everyone, it's Jody here, and welcome to my channel, The Planner Pages Edit. Today I'm going to share with you my top planner products for travel, whether it's for work or pleasure. So grab a beverage and snack, sit back, and let's get started. If you have been following me on Instagram for a while at The Planner Pages Edit, you will know that I travel a lot, and mostly for work. In fact, as of the filming of this episode, it is September, and so far I have gone on 7 trips so far, and I'm gearing up for my 8th trip in about 2 weeks. So by the end of the year, I will have gone on 12 trips, which averages about 1 a month, although in reality, it's turned out to be 1 to 2 trips a month with some breaks in between. So needless to say, I've learned a thing or two about what works for travel, and when it comes to my planner products, I've figured a few things out, which I'm going to share with you today. So where do we begin? I'm going to start at the beginning, and this is actually the first step of my planner process when it comes to traveling. And that is made pretty easy with Cloth and Paper's planner packing list insert. So this packing list insert is great. In fact, I have it in 3 different sizes, and I just love it. It makes packing so much easier, for me at least, and it's a pretty simple layout. So obviously this is a filled out version of the insert. And this is actually in the half-letter size because when I first started traveling, I would bring with me my half-letter planner, which is what I use on a daily basis for work at my desk. But I have since learned now that this is too heavy and too much to travel with. So I have downsized, at least for travel purposes, to a personal size. And I'm just going to show you the blank insert for the packing list in the personal size, since that's where my blank inserts are. So you'll see this is a pretty simple, self-explanatory layout. You have a place for essentials. So for me, those are things like my glasses, my corporate credit card, my water bottle, and miscellaneous stuff like that. Then there's a space for clothing, toiletries, technology, and shoes. And there's a little circle next to each line where you can check things off as you pack them. So actually going back to this filled out version, you can see that I have used a dot marker to fill in the circles. And then as I pack everything, I just check it off. And it's a pretty easy way to keep organized and keep track of what has already gone in the suitcase and what needs to be added. But returning back to the blank page, on the back, you have a continuation of the list, but the headings are blank. And this is where you can customize your needs. So for me, I basically will use this as an overflow area for extra items like toiletries or tech items. Sometimes I will customize some of these for items that aren't categorized in a typical fashion like they have been done on the front side. But what I really love about this, it's not just the practicality of this insert, but it's really how I use it as the first step of my planning routine when it comes to traveling. You know, right before I go on a trip, my mind is all over the place. It's focused on related needs, some unrelated needs. Like, for example, I know usually before I travel, I always try to get my nails done. I'll often need refills for travel-sized shampoo and conditioner. But, you know, while those things are important and they're related to the trip, they aren't really things that get me out the door. But this packing list is kind of like that first set. It really sets the tone for, okay, I'm about to leave. what are the things I need to do to physically get myself out of the house and onto the airplane. So this has been a great part of my planner routine, not just for the functionality, but just the mindset it puts me in. So I love these. So the next step when I get ready for a trip is I start filling out my travels notebook. And this is Cloth and Paper's travel notebook in the Pocket Plus size, which measures 3.2 by 6 inches. So it's a compact, portable size, perfect for travel. I should also note that Cloth and Paper has this travel notebook in an A5 slim size, which measures 4.3 by 8.3 inches. So it's a little bigger, but this one is the smaller Pocket Plus size. And in here, I have a couple notebooks. This is just a monthly insert, which I use to fill out the month. I'll fill it out even if I'm not traveling. I kind of like this portable size. And it's nice to have as I'm moving around, even if I'm not on the road, maybe I'm running errands, I'll take this system with me. So that is in here. Then I also have a task planner notebook, a daily agenda notebook, and some graph notes. And I'll show you a little bit of these in detail, starting with the task planner notebook. So basically, I just use this as a shopping list right now. It can be for items I need in preparation for a trip. But this summer, it was items that I actually needed during the trip, and mostly they were work-related supplies. So this was great for putting down everything that I needed when I went shopping and keeping it with me in my purse. The daily agenda notebook is kind of the most functional, I think, of what I used. And so here, let me see, I can try and zoom in here. I use this to record my actual travel schedule. So this is a work trip I had in July to New York and Michigan. And so you'll see I'll have my flight itinerary in these spaces and then my daily schedule and meetings in the other spaces. And then on the opposite page, I have some reminders and to-do lists and a little quote, which I thought kind of went well for travel. On a sticky note. These stickers, you'll see I've got the month, I've got some categories, checked bag, means I need to pack that, some reminders. These labels and travel icons and times come from Cloth and Paper's Aether Lounge sticker book, which is here in the back. And this is pretty neat. Basically, they have a lot of travel-related icons, labels, which you see I've used for categories such as, restaurants, lodging, icons for different modes of transportation, and then, of course, times. So I'll just take these labels and stickers and put them in the agenda notebook to kind of map out my day and week. And so that's been really handy. In fact, I'll use this when I'm literally at the airport or literally on the ground trying to figure out what my next appointment is or where I need to go next. So this has been great for that really on the ground work and travel. And then we have what is called the Graph Notes Notebook. And this summer, I used this to note the various addresses and their summer business hour times. So I was on several college campuses this summer for work, and these campuses were just huge. At least they were bigger than what I'm used to. I went to a relatively small college in Minnesota, but I was at places like Columbia, Yale, Michigan State University. Like these are really big campuses compared to what I'm used to. And throughout any given day, I had to be at a different location, and each location had a different set of operating hours. And so the easiest way for me to keep track of that was to just drop that all here in this graph notes section. And it worked out really well for me. In fact, this went with me everywhere. This whole system went with me everywhere I went this summer for traveling. It was kind of like my Bible. I would literally be lost without it. And I do mean literally, given that's where all these addresses are being kept. And basically, most of my trips this year were for work. And this captured pretty much everything I needed to get from point A to point B. And it would also work for personal travel too. Like if you have a full personal travel itinerary with different tours or different stops that you want to take, this system is perfect for any of that. So work or personal, you can't go wrong with this travel notebook system, in my opinion. Now, because most of my trips this year were for work, I needed a small, portable, work-related notebook. So actually, back when I was a neophyte business traveler, I would actually take with me my half-letter planner, because this is my daily planner that I use for work at my desk. And when I first started traveling, this went with me just because I couldn't. It was kind of like a security blanket, I guess, because my daily work was in here. I didn't want to leave it at home. But I learned very, very fast. You can see how thick and heavy she is. That this is just too much for traveling. And the thing about my work travel is I'm not at a desk. I'm constantly on the move, in constant motion. I'm talking 20,000 steps a day, and I am not exaggerating. So I needed something a little bit more portable. So that's when I switched only for work, travel purposes to this CP Petite notebook size. And I was a little worried at first because, like I said, this half letter was kind of treated as a security blanket for me. That's where my day-to-day work, lived when I was at my desk at home. But it just wasn't working when I was traveling. So I decided to use this for travel. And I must say, it's worked out really well. I have gone through a tour of this in another YouTube video. So if you kind of want to see how I use this, do check that out. But let's just say that when you compare the sizes, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious which one's going to be more friendly for travel. And I will say I was very surprised. This really forced me to minimize my planner needs when traveling this summer. And I was quite surprised at how fast I was able to adapt. And so I'm going to continue bringing this with me when I travel versus, the bigger sizes, just because it's more convenient, but it still does the trick. Now, for most people, this is kind of where things stop, right? These are honestly, these are the essentials for travel. You can get by on a trip, whether it's a few days or a few weeks. I think my longest trips are about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And you can be just fine with these two items, in my opinion. But I'm not like most person, and that's probably a curse. Because even when I travel for work, I like to journal. And yeah, you can journal in this too. But I have found that I kind of like to have all my journal entries in one spot. So I guess that means I'm a little extra. And this summer traveled with 2 journals. And this is not going to continue next year. I will have to say there's a story behind this. So I'll just start with the reason why I have 2 journals. So this is Cloth and Paper's Intention Journal. And this has worked pretty well for on the road. But I actually started using this journal because I was kind of in this journaling slump. And I really had this need to journal, but I just didn't know how to get back into it. So this was great. This is kind of like a great starter for getting me back in the groove. And I have been journaling every day for the past year and a half, thanks to this journal, which is, one notebook contains about 6 months of journaling. And I've just kind of added my own deco to it. The neat thing about this journal layout is especially if you're trying to get back into the groove of journaling or are new to it, it's really designed for bullet journaling. You don't have a lot of space. The space you have is really just meant to literally, bullet journal. So like you'll see I've used dot markers to create bullet points and just drop my thoughts and reflections into the space. And each section has a prompt. You've got a brain dump space, a place to list accomplishments from the day, gratitudes, 3 reflections, and your intentions for the next day. And that's it. So I've, like I said, been doing this every day for like the past year and a half. And of course, when I started traveling this summer, this was coming with me. But around mid-year, I felt like I was starting to outgrow this. I felt that my journaling habits had matured to where I didn't really want to write in just bullet points, and I didn't really need the prompts. And so I started just a regular, typical blank journal. And this is a Sterling ink graph notebook. This is pretty big. Let's see, there's about, in this, we have about 518 pages, it looks like, 517 pages, which can probably carry me a little more than 6 months of this bullet style journaling. So I've started to then do a little more longer narrative journaling in this, and I've really enjoyed this. So I think after this year, I'm going to retire the intention notebook and journal solely in this. But since I've started, I don't really want to stop. I do enjoy the part of my daily routine that comes with this. And so I can hang on until December and finish this up. But then come January, I'm going to only be journaling in one journal. And that should help with the travel and keeping things light. Like I said, this year I was just a little extra, I guess. But that's the plan going forward. So if you're on the road, obviously you need utensils to write with. And this mini pencil and pen case, which came in a cloth and paper sub box earlier this year, has been perfect for traveling. It literally forces me to keep things at a minimum, because if I'm not kept in check, I would probably pack my whole dang desk. I kid you not. So usually this summer, I've included at least one highlighter, one fountain pen, a stamp marker, and then inside, I've included one gel pen and then my mini scissors. And that is it. And again, it keeps things light and portable and forces me to really just stick to the essentials. So this has been another fantastic item for traveling. So one more thing. There's just one final part of the travel experience when it comes to planners and stationery. Right now, this is my catch-all planner. I need to go through and organize this so I can use it a little more productively. But for now, it's kind of just a dumping space. And what I have started doing is using Cloth and Paper's experience tracker to record my trips and travel. And this is a relatively new insert for me. I haven't used it until just recently, but it's really my version of a memory keeper, right? A memory keeping journal. And yeah, you could actually found online that Cloth and Paper makes this as a travel notebook, which I might get for next year. But since I have these half-liter size inserts from a recent sub box, I'm just using those to kind of record my travel experiences from the summer. So it has a place to list the name, the category, the location. You can review it with stars, or I just use a dot marker. And then I use it to record the highlights of the trip, the pros and cons, and really just the top end items that I want to remember. I don't go into a lot of detail, but I think it would be a great reference when I look, not only to look back on the memories, but hey, if I return to any of these places again in the future, I have some notes on what my initial experience was like. And then maybe I can reline those notes to make my next experience even better. So that, my friends, summarizes my my top travel planner products. And you will see everything listed in the description section of this video. You'll also see my cloth and paper affiliate link and a discount code for new cloth and paper shoppers. But let me know what your travel must-haves are when it comes to planners and stationery. I'm always looking for ways to maximize my planning while I'm on the road or preparing for a trip. And so I'd love to hear what works for you as well. But until then, that is it for today. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time.